Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Fiorletta, Managing Editor of Channel Marketer Report, and today I have with me Patrick Van Boom, who is VP of Global Marketing for TIE Kinetix. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess to start out our conversation, obviously, CMR covers new developments and trends in the channel marketing space, which obviously aligns with the B2B marketing world. And, a term we've heard a lot of over the past few years is content marketing. So to start our conversation off, I'd love to hear your perspectives of, what you're seeing in the B2B and channel marketing space, and more importantly, the role that content is playing in this new era.
Yeah, well, if you look at the research in general, obviously it's clear that content is becoming more and more popular as a driver for leads, for sales, plays a big role in the whole sales and marketing process. And obviously we're right in that space. But what you see is that a lot of content used to be focused on product content. But what you see more and more is that content, what we sometimes call lifestyle content. It's content that's relevant across the whole marketing and sales funnel. So in an early stage, it's completely different content than when you actually are at the buy button where you want to buy things. Then it's really product content. But in the early stages, it's different content. And with new technology and focus on all kind of devices, you will see content playing a bigger role in all stages of the marketing and sales funnel. And that's one of the main things we see. And then obviously the seamless experience across all stages in the funnel. Now the real challenge becomes, of course, in the channel where you work through indirect partners or partners. It becomes more challenging because how do you get that seamless experience throughout your indirect channel, your VAR channel or your retail channel? And then for all these stages in the sales cycle, it's that's a real challenge, and that's where we see a lot of things happening. And recently, obviously, you get the introduction of the social since a few years. That's posing another challenge there. So a lot of things are happening, but everything is about content because end of the day, content and engaging with content makes people interested in your solutions and ultimately makes them buy your product.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. And you touched on a really good topic that we've been hearing more and more about, especially from the buyer perspective, that in those early stages, the key thing that they want is for companies to curb the sales speak. So that's something that, companies need to focus on in terms of creating something high level, more trend-based, and, assets that really help them position themselves as a thought leader.
Yeah, and it's the thought leadership in the early stages of the sales cycle, to attract prospects, to attract leads, and then the branding becomes more important than, let's say, the experience or the feeling of your solutions, your product, the image of your product. All these kind of things become more important all the way down until you make a decision based on specifications or the brand itself. So there's a lot of things going on there, and but that makes it very interesting. So how to connect all these things together, especially if you have to do it through your partners, right? Because you don't have control there, typically. So you have to engage with them, you have to communicate, you have to put in a lot of resources to actually have them send out your message, and then they're challenged with the situation that they're typically mid-sized, small, because they're not all big and not all large, and then the big challenge there is that they have a lot of suppliers. It's not just one. And how can you stay top of mind? How can you make sure that they promote your brand and your solutions? And that has everything to do with content, because end of the day, when a sales rep from one of your partners is talking to customers, and the customers or prospects ask him for information or advice, then it's the battle about share of mind, right? So what is top of mind? Who makes life easiest for the sales rep? Because he will probably get the deal in the end. And those are very interesting dynamics that are going on. And content is crucial there, because advice, if the sales rep needs to give advice, that's basically content. He needs information to advise to his prospect, to send to his prospect, and so on. It's all about content.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something that we've been hearing consistently, just in our areas of coverage and interviews with both vendors and their partners, is that sometimes those smaller companies that you touched on don't really have, number one, the time, and number two, the financial resources to really dedicate to creating their own content. So they're sort of
Right.
relying on their vendor partners to provide them with those resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually where something very interesting comes into play because you see a lot of things about marketing automation, which is also interesting because I think marketing and sales are really belong together. It's not marketing automation and sales automation. It's basically one process. It's all about converting prospects on the top of the funnel into buying customers and returning customers. But marketing automation, that's where it becomes interesting because you can automate a process, but then you're really thinking about automating steps in let's say what we typically see in processes that are not really for automation. So how can you make so you end up with for example a VAR a partner ends up with all kind of different tools from let's say 10 to 14 suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
How can he manage that? That's not making his life easier. That's making his life more difficult because he has to spend more time. He has to be trained. He has to be in all kind of different tools, marketing tools, sales tools that those suppliers give him to make his life easier, to save him time. Because like you say, he doesn't have the resources. He doesn't have the money. He's not big enough. So that's very interesting because you see marketing automation tools in general typically are very time consuming for a partner.
Right.
And that's, I think, where we like to do things totally different because what we like to do is take all that away from the partner. So don't ask the partner to do something every day. Don't ask him to check all kind of things. Don't ask him to come into some kind of tool or portal or whatever to get content or to get messages to send out on Twitter, on his Twitter account. Those kind of things. You want to automate that process because they're too small to return, let alone to return to 14 times a number of different tools. 14 times if he has 14 suppliers, right?
Right.
You do the math. That's not making his life easier. So how do you do that? How do you make his life easier? So he becomes, a professional marketer. You help him with the sales process without putting more pressure on him and asking more resources from him. I think that's the big challenge that you have, and that's obviously also where syndication comes into play. But then still you see in syndication a lot of differences. If we consider syndication typically a marketing and sales automation, what people sometimes say. Mm-hmm. But you see the same kind of thing happening if you ask the partner to constantly come back. So, we have customers that fight for this mind share with their partners, and if he has to go to a tool every day to grab his content to do something, he doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. You might be able to get him to do something once, but then he should be all set. Then he should have all the relevant content, whether it's on his website, through his Facebook, in emailings, everywhere in the whole funnel. Whether it's engaging with leads or with customers or with prospects, wherever it is, it should be automated. Yeah. And that's where we are focusing. And still, you have to be, you have to maintain his own identity, right? Because it's still your partner is not part of you. Your partner he has his own company and he's proud of his own identity. So you have to keep his own identity also. So that's a very challenging environment, to be able to do that and to help the partner, because what we see is that you basically, for those kind of programs, your success rate will go down drastically if the more time you ask from him, the less partners will actually use your tools and will actually work with your content. And that's basically the big thing we see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of very subtle intricacies and nuances of channel relationships that only the people who participate in them really understand. So you sort of alluded a little bit to, the role that TIE Kinetix is playing in some of these channel relationships and making partners and vendors' lives easier. But why don't you provide a high-level overview for our viewers that may not be fully familiar with you guys?
Right. Well, TIE Kinetix is in business for about 25 years, and we're basically trying to have solutions for everything in the whole sales cycle for companies that work with a channel, which basically means it starts with what we call market, sell, deliver, and analyze. Those are our main moving parts. Where the market piece is to support the marketing process through your partners, and that's syndication solutions, and that can go from showcases to inline content on the product page, to social media syndication that we're going to launch actually next week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it's all integrated in the same solution. So, like partners subscribe to the solution, they don't have to do it several times. It's one solution. It's basically one place to go once, and then you're all set with your mailing, social media, showcase, inline content, whatever you can think of. The next step in the whole cycle is the buy button, of course, the moment of transaction. And that's where we have our e-commerce solutions. Then we're in integration solutions, which is basically the deliver phase, as we say it. Once people buy things, then all kind of things need to happen in the supply chain. That's our integration. We're for 25 years in integration. And we recently acquired a business intelligence company because one of the other trends, of course, is to get the big data. And if you cover all the processes in the marketing and sales cycle and the logistics, that's generating a lot of data. And to be able to analyze that and have business intelligence to help you to actually increase conversion, whether it's in lead generation or it's in the conversion on the buy button, all these kind of things. So it's basically what we call a total integrated e-commerce concept that we have. And we're doing that globally. We're listed in the Netherlands. We're based, our headquarters are in the Netherlands, but we have offices in Asia, France, Germany, Austria, and the US. That's high level who we are.
Excellent. Well, it seems like you guys have a very robust set of solutions, especially more tailored to that channel audience, which obviously we've been talking a lot about. And, we really hit on a lot of really big topics, hot topics right now, both in the B2B and the channel space. Marketing automation, content marketing, social media, that integrated researching and buying process, obviously. But, to close out our conversation, what do you think will be the key focus for the rest of 2013 and beyond? What'll be the core trends or core issues that folks in the channel are really going to be honing in on?
Well, I think what you see is content will become even bigger, even more important. But on top of that, with the big trend going on, everybody talks about big data. So combining those together, it's about the context-related syndication. And context-related meaning you serve content based on your previous behavior, on what's relevant for you at that moment, and that's in syndication through your partners. It's in social, that's in the storefronts. To make the content more personal and adjust it to your situation at this moment, and that's where you need to marry the things together with big data. So I see that as a very important one, not even for the next few months, but the next few years. Content becoming more important. Make sure that you have engaging content, obviously, which is a trap because vendors typically seem to make content from their own perspective. But if you go through your partners, you have to create content that is basically from the perspective of your partner to his end user, which is different, has a different tone of voice.
Absolutely.
And I think the two big moving parts will come together, which is the trend in content in the whole marketing and sales process, combined with big data to make it more context specific and device specific.
Excellent.
That's the big thing we see.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good stuff, Patrick. And we already see some of those trends already starting to bubble up. So it'll be exciting to see how those develop.
It's very exciting, yeah.
All right, excellent, Patrick. Well, you definitely covered a lot of ground, a lot of really helpful insights for our viewers. So thanks again so much for taking the time out to join us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And everyone, thanks out there for watching.
Okay, thank you.